Hi fam and welcome to a new video. Today I am being interrupted by my mother while I am filming a video. Can you please leave? Hi fam and welcome to a new video. Today I want to ask you a very important question. Have you ever read a book and just been like, shit, I wish I wrote this book because it's brilliant, or like the concepts are brilliant, or the writing was brilliant, or something was brilliant that you were just like, shit, I wish I had this idea in my brain. And today I want to talk to you about 5 books that made me go through this. All the books that I talk about have different reasons why I felt like I wish I wrote this book, and I'm going to discuss them now. So the first book that I want to talk about is Chosen Spirits by Samit Basu. Now this book was just written in 2020 in fact, and is set in India in, I would say, the near distant future, maybe about like 10-15 years down the line, when technology has advanced quite a bit, and basically a lot of shit has gone down with in terms of like communal violence and just the way things are. So basically what Samit Basu did in this book is that it took the world that we have right now and just like exaggerated it and tuned it a little bit to more like a bit more fucked upness. But what I loved in this book were the concepts. So there were just so many different things. So being a person who works in like the social media and digital media field, there is this one concept which they called the flow. So flows are basically these live streams that go on, and influencers are essentially flowers, and they basically live stream their entire life. And there is this one character called Joey who is a producer for such a live stream. And what's interesting about this live stream is that the live stream could be catered to what you want or what you like. So as a person who likes books, for example, the influencer could be very book driven, or like likes reading a lot of books, or a person could be, if a person is super into like gaming, for example, then the live stream that they see is very gaming driven. So this basically, it made me think about how like on Facebook you have, based on your likes and your preferences, you get different kinds of like feeds, and it's just taken that to a new level wherein this influencer basically has to then film different parts of his said life which he's live streaming, and you get to see whatever you wish to like see. And I just thought that was so interesting. And then there's this other bit which is called the Narad, which is basically the smart tattoo, wherein instead of having a smart watch, you basically have this ink onto your hand. And Narad is basically like a Siri of sorts, where they can say like, oh, your blood pressure is going up, or oh, like this is happening, you're not feeling so great, do you want to get this checked? And that is just so interesting because basically just a few weeks ago, there was an article that came out that Google is trying to make something very similar to that, and I was just like, and I think they're calling it like smart skin or something like that. I will link the article that I saw down below, but just the concept of it was just so interesting. I was just like, yeah, I wish I thought of this. So that's my first book. The second book I want to talk about is very different from Chosen Spirits, and that is Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. This book was just so intriguing to me because I love reading about familial ties, and that's basically what this book did. This book follows 16 stories, but all of them are kind of interlocking and interweaving. And essentially they're stories of 4 women and then 4 of their daughters. All of them are basically Chinese immigrants, Chinese American immigrants, being the 4 mothers being the ones who had to then travel and immigrate to America, whereas the other, their daughters were born in the US. And basically it tells their lives of a newly immigrant family and how that is, and is also about basically the lives of the kids post that. And I just thought this book was so interesting. I in fact got to hear Amy Tan at a JLF, I think in 2016 Speaks, which is why I have this book signed, which is so cool. And she told the story of how basically all these stories are from her family itself, and essentially there are different things that happen in this book, yeah, and all of those stories are stories that she's heard through her life, of things that have happened in her family. And I too have this very interesting family where lots of interesting things have happened, and I've always wanted to kind of like catalog it and put it into a book, but I just didn't know how. And then when I heard that she had done this, and after, well, I'd read the book and I was just like, wow, that is so interesting. So that kind of made me want to write as well, which is why I wish I wrote a book like this. Maybe I will one day, I don't know, but it's just so amazing. Love this book, check it out. The third book that I want to talk about is Remnants of a Separation by Anchal Malhotra. Now, this book, before I even read it, I was like, I wish I wrote this. Because Anchal Malhotra took this amazing idea of trying to tell the stories of people through material memories. And she even has a website, etc., that you can check out, which is the Museum of Material Memories. So I will link all of that down below, and I would strongly urge you to read this book and check out the website for sure. But what she does is that she basically focused on the Indian partition, which is when India and Pakistan were divided into two nations. And in that time, a lot of people had to cross the border, which was newly made at that point of time, and come into India or go into Pakistan. And essentially, they carried a lot of things with them. Not a lot. They could carry only a few things. And essentially what she did was find these people, and try to get the stories of their lives before the partition, during that partition, and coming from wherever they were to the place that they are now, and what happened afterwards. So this could be memory. These could be like articles like a lota, which is essentially what you carry for, like to water to relieve yourself, or for water in general, like a mug. And then the other one was like jewelry, a piece of jewelry. So like you hear stories of how someone was gifted this piece of jewelry from a prince, or something like that, and how she carried it in her pallu, which is like her saris like thing, and she kind of like knotted it into her clothes itself so that it wouldn't be taken away, because there were so many people who were even robbing people and all of that sort of stuff, and it was just a very difficult time. And just to hear these stories and these memories was so powerful. And I think that Anchal did a brilliant job of kind of just collecting all of those memories together, and just this idea is so amazing, that I was just like, damn it, I wish I wrote this book. But yeah, that's my third book. The fourth book that I want to mention is a book that I personally loved because of the intergenerational appeal that it has, and that is Haroon and the Sea of Stories by Salman Rushdie. Now, this book, Salman Rushdie actually wrote for his son, and it's actually a young adult, middle grade sort of book. But if you really look at it, it has a lot of allegories, which as adults you would be able to understand and appreciate much more. So this book basically follows Haroon and his father, Rashid, who is basically the Shah of Blah. So it has like these very interesting. So he's essentially this storyteller, who's often hired by a lot of politicians, etc., to give speeches and say good things on their behalf and all of that sort of stuff. But essentially, what happens is that Haroon's mum and Rashid's wife, Soraya, runs away with someone else, and is then like basically his storytelling ability goes away. And what happens is that one day they go to the Valley of K, and they find and Haroon finds this genie of sorts, or this guy called If. What is his name? Yeah, he's a water genie named If. And basically he then travels to the Sea of Stories, which is in the land of Gup. And this book is just so brilliant because it has, even the names are so interesting, because for example there is the land of Gup, which is Gup in Hindi or I don't know, Urdu, means talking, like gup karna. And then wait, I have it all written down. So the valley of cake could be the valley of Kashmir, because it also has something called the Dal Lake, which is Dull Lake. But in Kashmir there is, or Srinagar, there is the Dal Lake, which is Dal. So just like those comparisons that you would make as an adult, is just very interesting. And then of course there is Khatam Shud, the Kingdom of Gup, Princess Batcheet. Batcheet means talking and conversing. The Prince Bolo. Bolo means talk. And General Kitab. General Kitab means book. So just like all of these sort of things was just so interesting, and so just I loved it. It was basically it is an allegory for depression, for censorship, and just a bunch of things. And I just thought that it was so well written, even though it is a book for children. So yeah. And the last book, but not the least, is The Overstory by Richard Powers. Now, this book I read, I think, about a few years ago when I was holidaying in Uttarakhand with my family. And I think the reason why I loved it so much was because I was in nature and surrounded by trees. And the reason is because this book is essentially about trees, which is strange to talk about. But essentially, it's about 9 people and 9 interlocking, interweaving stories, and you get to see their childhood as well as them growing up, and how and their relationship with trees, and all of them kind of differ. Some studied it, some made a what's it called, a game, like a AI game that involved trees, and just like a bunch of things happened, but all of their stories kind of weirdly interlock. And you'll see that happen, and I just love those kind of stories, I think. And it just made me feel so much, and I remember reading this book and just like being like, wow, and like just being in awe of trees, because I was just surrounded by it. So I would like invariably be like reading, and then I would look up and just be like, oh my god, how old would this tree be? And just like a bunch of shit like that. So I just loved the way this book made me feel about a thing that I possibly didn't think too much about, and that was trees. So that's what I would, that's why I would want to write a book like this. But yeah, those were my 5 books. I already have so many more that I can talk about, but I thought in this video I would just talk about 5. But please do comment down below with other books that made you feel what I felt. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you in another video. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you already haven't, and if you wish to. And I will see you in a new video coming soon. Alright, bye.